Good day, I'm Elmer Joy Borja, a second-year BSN Mathematics student. So, here are my following topics. First, why do we need to define the test objectives or learning outcomes targeted for assessment? Second, what are the objectives for testing? Third, what is a table of specifications? Fourth, what are the general steps in developing a table of specifications? And last, fifth, what are the different formats of a test table of specifications? Now, let's first discuss the why do we need to define the test objectives or learning outcomes targeted for assessment. Now, let's define what is test objective. Test objective is the overall goal and achievement of the test execution. Therefore, the objective of the testing is finding as many software defects as possible. It is to ensure that the software under test is bug-free before release. So here are the following purposes of test objectives. First purpose is to prevent defects. It is efficient testing helps preventing defects and that helps in providing an error-free application. Second is to evaluate work products. It is to evaluate work products such as requirements, user stories, design, and code. Third, to verify requirement. To verify whether all specified requirements have been fulfilled. Fourth is to validate test objective. To validate whether the test objective is complete and works as the users and other stakeholders expect. Fifth, to build confidence. To build confidence in the level of quality of the test object. Sixth is to reduce risk. To reduce the level of risk at inadequate software quality. So its example is previously undetected failures occurring in operation. Seventh is to share information to stakeholders. It is to provide enough information to stakeholders to allow them to make informed decisions, especially regarding the level of quality of the test object. Last is to find failure and defects. Defects should be identified as early in the test cycle as possible. Now let's move on to the second topic. What are the objectives for testing? As defined, the test objectives provide a prioritized list of verification or validation objectives for the project. So the first step in the test planning process is to document the high-level test objectives. So you use this list of objectives to measure testing progress and verify that testing activity is consistent with project objectives. So test objectives can typically be grouped into the following categories. So here are the categories of test objectives. First, the functional correctness. So it is a validation that the application correctly supports required business processes and transactions. So the list of all the business processes that the application is required to support. It is also the list any standards for which this is required compliance. Second is the authorization. So this category is a verification that actions and data are available only to those users with correct authorization. So the list in any key authorization requirements that must be satisfied, including the access to functionality and the data. Third is the service level. So the verification that the system will support the required service levels of the business. So this includes the system availability, load, and responsiveness. So the list of any key performance indicators of the service level and the level of operational effort required to meet. Last is the usability. So the validation that the application meets required levels of usability. So the list is to require training level and user of the key performance indicators are required. So these are the categories of the test objectives. As the testing team, development team, and the business unit agree upon the list of test objectives and their priority. Now let's move on and go to the third topic, which is what is a table of specification. So, a table of specification is a tool used to ensure that a test or assessment measures the content and thinking skills that the test intends to measure. So, the numbers in the table remembers the level for each objective, indicate how many items the instructor plans to include on the test for each objective and level of learning. Thus, when used appropriately, it can provide response content and construct validity evidence. And the main purpose of this is to identify the achievement domains being measured and to ensure that a fair and representative sample of questions appear on the test. So the following benefits of the table of specification is first to improve the validity of teacher-made tests, and second is to improve student learning. So this table of specification helps to ensure that there is match between what is taught and what is tested. So the classroom assessment should be driven by classroom teaching, which itself is driven by course goals and objectives. So what are the general steps in developing a table of specification? So here are the following steps in developing a table of specification. First is choosing the measurement goals and domain to be covered. So it simply means that you must list down the topics covered for inclusion in the test. Second is breaking the domain into key or fairly independent parts, so such as concepts, term procedures, and applications. So it's simply defined as to be determine the objectives to be assessed by the test. And last is constructing the table. So you must specify the number of days or hours spent for teaching a particular topic. Now let's move on for the last topic. What are the different formats of a test table of specifications? So this is an example of table of specification. So we have here first the knowledge. So knowledge here is remembering facts, terms, definitions, and the concepts. Second is comprehension. So it simply means that understanding the meaning of material. Third is the application. It means selecting a concept or skill and using it to solve a problem. Then the analysis, it is the breaking material down into its parts and explaining the hierarchical relations. Last is the synthesis or the evaluation. It is making a judgment based upon a pre-established set of criteria. Moreover, here are some examples of table of specifications. An example of the table of specification template. An example of a table specification of grade 2. An example made of table of specification of 5th grade.